Now we'll go to step 9. So hang in there. It's just 10 steps and ending slide. So step 9, we're almost there. You need to check to see if your countermeasure being implemented, and even if they're implemented, if the desired output was reached or not. So remember that an improvement project is an investigation. You're creating theories of something, right? The theory is that this X variable impact and this Y variable, right? And then you go there and tweak the X variable and change, expecting that there is an impact on Y. Sometimes, guess what? There's not. So sometimes you implement your plan and you don't get where you're supposed to go. So what you need to do next is go back to your root causes, and maybe we select a root cause that was not the root cause, right? So we need to go back to our analysis and go and dig deeper, okay? So that's why important to understand our KPIs, or key process indicators. And we can divide them into process KPIs and results KPIs, right? And this is what this kind of slide is talking about. Oops. So our result KPIs, which is the performance metric usually that we're looking at to improve, or Y variable, okay? That's important that we understand that, but it's important to understand the process KPIs, right? So this is an example of our quality, part per million, right? Or DPMO, defect per million opportunities, the same thing as PPM. If we're looking at the parts per million only, we might not see something going up and down, and we don't know why that's happening, right? So it's always good to create what you call the process measurements, which are looking at the X variables that we think impact on Y. So in this case, it talks about standardized work, right? So we know if people maintain their standard work, their chance of creating defects is lower. So one performance metric could be the adherence or the team use of standardized work. So you can implement some audits to understand if standard work is being used, and check on the operators to see if the standard work is being used and they're doing things according to the standard work. That's what I mean. Because if we know that if they're not, you're going to impact PPM, right? So that's what we call the process KPIs. So make sure that you're managing both of them. And then we go to 10 here is to standardize, share, and keep to the next page, right? So standardize the countermeasures, find a way to disseminate and share as much as we can. We need to document the standard in a clear visual way. So here are some documents. This one, we know what it is, right? So that's the diagram of the standard work. We saw other examples when we talked about standardized work. This is also example of standardized work. This is an example of a swim lane, and this is an example of a chart that we didn't look at that. It's a matrix of seeing who is trained in which job. But again, they're all standardized work, and you can see if they're being followed or not, right? So you have to implement audits or kind of procedures that make sure that these things are being implemented. Shared communication, when we talk about Lean Six Sigma, was our control plan was talking about that, and standardized was talking about that. Share is important, so communicate information to other people in an organization, people that have different or similar problems, maybe have the same machine in different places, or the same work is being done in similar places. So how are we going to share what we learn, and also thinking about continuous improvement, right? You never reach the ideal state. You have always keep going, keep going, keep going. Once we solve the problem, we need to get to the next step. So this is a checklist of kind of things that are important. On the clarify problem, visualize the gap, go study, locate, the measure phase, grasp the situation, break down the data, set a SMART target, detail a fishbone, do a 5 whys, have a countermeasure plan that have the 5 W's, 1 H, and detailed schedule. Countermeasure implementation, have teamwork, speed, and reporting being done, and then check result and process KPIs, and then you standardize, share, and improve. So all of this is into that A3, and you're going to receive an Excel file with all the fields that we need to populate there. Remember some key things, right? Visual, clear, objective, right? You're telling a story. When you finish all that, never give up on the left there. Important. Think that everything has to make sense, right? You're telling a story and have to be compelling. That's why the A3 is in one piece of paper, because it is the best way to tell the whole story where people will see the whole picture, right? You don't get lost in the middle. And it's a lot more difficult to concise information than to expand information, right? So put all the important information in one piece of paper is a lot more difficult than writing 55 pages of the same thing, right? So you have to be concise, have to be clear, have to be direct, have to tell the whole story, have to make sense. If you break those things, guess what? People will notice. And that's the important of the A3. Because if you go to the root causes and then you have an implementation plan that doesn't tackle the root causes, people will notice, right? If you have a 55 slide presentation, they will not notice. So that's why it's important to be in one piece of paper. So you're going to have the team assignment available. You read it, you do it in A3, you submit it to me, you have some fun, and we're almost there. We're getting to final exam and finally holiday break. So start working, guys. Start working.